So yeah, we are here. It is the end of The Last of Us Season 2. A season that really kind of disappointed me as a massive fan of The Last of Us Part 1 and The Last of Us Part 2, and a massive fan of The Last of Us Season 1, which I believe is one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. I've been public saying I give it pretty much a 9 to 10 out of 10. Love the first season. The Last of Us Season 2 very much disappointed me for a lot of reasons. Again, I thought it'd be kind of fun with you guys to go over my complete review of Season 2, kind of episode by episode, and give you guys my thoughts and opinions. Again, obviously I'll just be using gameplay for this video because apparently any negativity about the show and you use footage from the show just gets you taken down, so we won't be doing that because I got to make some money off this video to afford myself some KFC. So yeah, we got some gameplay of course in the background for you guys, but again, Last of Us Season 2 Episode 1 gets us back in the world and shows us how Joel and Ellie have of course been living in Jackson. It's actually a pretty good introduction, especially to Dina. Again, I really like the character of Dina in the game, and I very much like the character of her in the show. As most of you guys know, in the first episode though, Dina and Ellie actually go on patrol where it gets really silly and really stupid. Again, there are a lot of memes from the Season 2 Episode 1, and of course, Ellie looking clapped as, making those faces again. That is so funny. I mean, I don't like Bella Ramsey in this role for a lot of reasons, but I feel like the bullying of her just looking clapped is really not in her control. But yeah, you guys know what I mean with her and the knife scenes. They are so random, but also everything that goes on from then on, I absolutely hate. I mean, Ellie acts really, really immature in the whole of the rest of the episode, and it kind of gives you everything you need to know about how Ellie is going to be portrayed writing-wise and acting-wise in this show. Again, unfortunately, Ellie ends up getting herself bit, and it is a really, really stupid and annoying scene because the whole entire point of this season is supposed to be taking 5 years, like after the first season. It's supposed to be showing the growth of Ellie, yet she seems more immature and acting like a kid than ever and gets herself bit, and it is a really annoying, stupid scene, which I absolutely hate and talked about on the channel before. Again, episode 1, first half of it, there's some decent stuff. Second half, I mean, yeah, Bella Ramsey really lets it down in the episode. Again, Season 2 is one of the best episodes of The Last of Us, right? It is great. From the action to the narrative changes, which I absolutely loved, of course, Joel and now Dina, instead of Tommy, helping out Abby. And as they go and help out Abby and find what Joel's new fate is going to be, you got Jackson being attacked in the background, which creates an absolutely awesome set piece and great action scene, which shows it's actually one of the best episodes, I think, in the whole entire series. Again, I actually felt like they handled Joel's death really, really well, and I have no critiques about it at all. I think they did really good about that. Again, the only bad thing about the episode was probably Abby saying Joel was kind of hot, which was a bit strange and very like out of character, but I mean, it is what it is. But Pedro Pascal in it was so great. Dina, Isabella Merced was so great. Tommy in it was really good. Bella Ramsey in it was pretty good for the most part as well, and her portrayal of Ellie actually seemed kind of like Ellie in that episode. So again, if you kind of take all that into account, Season 2 doesn't sound so bad, right? Yeah, until you get to Episode 3, when Episode 3 comes around and is very, very boring. It is very, very filler. It doesn't really add much to the show at all. Again, you get a town sequence of showing kind of how Ellie's been recovering since, of course, Joel's death, and how she's been kind of seeing a therapist and all this type of stuff, stuck in hospital. Again, shortly after that, you get some really good emotional scenes of her crying about Joel. Again, I feel like you could have had 5 to 10 minutes of that and been done with that part and then started Seattle Day 1. But they decided to go and put in a bunch of other different things like the town meeting and them meeting about whether or not they should go to Seattle to find Joel's killers and all of this type of stuff. Again, for the most part, it's pretty boring, right? The episode wouldn't be looked on as bad if they didn't mess up episode 4, because you could have a filler episode with episode 3, but then you got to smash it out with episode 4. Just how they kind of had a filler episode with episode 1 and then smash it out with episode 2. You need to do that with 3 and 4, but unfortunately, episode 4 is by far the worst episode of the show. It is the first episode that is really absolutely terrible, and I mean, it's one of the worst episodes I think I've nearly seen in my time of watching TV shows. I absolutely hated it. Again, there's a lot of things that happen in this that I just think are terrible. For example, when they, of course, get to Seattle, the whole entire first half of the episode is kind of boring, but then the second half of the episode really starts off with them, of course, in the underground subway and them running around the horde of infected. And again, spores haven't been introduced in the show yet, so they had to find another way to show that Ellie was immune to Dina. And unfortunately, they picked the worst way possible, with Ellie yet again being bit in the show, which is so dumb and so annoying because it just shows how immature, careless, and reckless she has kind of been. She sacrifices herself and shows and gets bit, and Dina, of course, sees that she gets bitten. Again, a way more boring take to what it was in the game, where, of course, Ellie's mask breaks. Dina's about to take hers off to save Ellie, but Ellie then tells Dina she's immune. Again, that was absolutely ridiculous. I hated that. And then it gets worse when they finally get to the theater, and Dina, of course, monitors Ellie to see if she's gonna turn or something. It's kind of like something like that. And then, as we know, she doesn't turn. Dina then tells Ellie she is pregnant, and instead of Ellie reacting really angry and like, what are we gonna do, like really nervous and anxious, like, you're pregnant and you're in this war zone, we're gonna get you back home, all of this, react like a normal person, Ellie goes and kisses Dina, and they basically finger bang each other after finding out that Dina's literally pregnant in basically the worst place on earth that you would want to find out she's pregnant. Again, terrible writing, terrible direction. It was even crappy acting, like everything about it was so ridiculous and stupid. Then they wake up the next morning and they have a conversation, and instead of Dina being angry or frustrated and still trying to figure out what they do, they're all in love, and basically Ellie looks at her and says, I'm gonna be a dad, which sounded so cringe and so immature and just not how anyone would react in that situation. Absolutely terrible. Terrible episode with terrible writing, childish writing, in fact. Let's move on because it was shocking, right? Again, episode 1 was pretty boring, episode 3 was pretty boring, and episode 4 was just flat out terrible. Not a good start to the season so far. But then we get to episode 5, where things well and truly pick up again. This was when the spores were, of course, officially introduced. The spores were finally introduced, and we get a couple of really great scenes. For example, Jesse actually coming and saving Ellie and Dina. Ellie, unfortunately, still acting really ungrateful and immature in the moment, which was terrible. They end up finding the scars and see what the scars do, which shows how kind of evil the scars are, which again makes even less sense for Ellie later on, who tries to save one in episode 7, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Again, you move on from that, and of course the scars find them, they try to escape. Dina and Jesse end up escaping and making it to the theater, while Ellie sees the hospital, goes to hunt down now Abby, but then, you know, finds her friend, and then, as we know with her friend, she chases her down. They end up getting underneath the hospital, where they find the Red Room, an absolutely awesome scene. The cinematography was done really great. They find the Red Room. This girl finds out that Ellie is immune, and Ellie basically brutally beats her. Again, great scene. The writing is so much better. The directing was so much better on this. How they introduced spores was actually done really well in this episode. Again, should have been done way before this one. Especially before episode 4. But again, at least this was finally we got the second good episode in this season. Again, episode 6 was also really good with the flashbacks before Joel died. Again, we got to see the birth. I thought the birthdays were really clever, having each, of course, part of the episode take place on one of Ellie's birthday. Again, getting to see her slowly grow and get distrust with Joel. And again, it gets to the point where they find a guy from the town who gets infected. Joel wants to kill him, but Ellie says he's got time. Let's take him to the wife, and of course, then we can kill him after that. But then, as we know, Joel says he promises he's not going to kill him as Ellie goes to get the horses. She gives him a face that says, "I promise," the same face he promised when he said to her that, what happened when he saved her wasn't anything crazy. He didn't kill any of the Fireflies, nothing like that. It was the same face he used to lie then. Again, he ends up killing the guy. Ellie sees it's the same face, knows that he lied, all of the above. Again, really emotional, really great scene. A lot of really good stuff going on in that. Again, another pretty good episode. This is the third good episode out of 6 that we've got so far. But yeah, we finish it off with episode 7, which I recently just made a video on, which I highly recommend you guys go and check out. Again, I thought the first half of the episode was absolutely terrible, but the second half of the episode was really, really good. So, it's hard to know. But at the end of the day, if I had to rate the episodes, obviously, I think episode 1 was pretty boring. It's probably a 5 out of 6. Episode 2, I'd actually give like a 10 out of 10. I think it was really good. Episode 3 would definitely be a 4 or a 5, kind of boring. Episode 4, I luckily enough gave it a 2. I don't even know if it's worth a 2. It could be worth a 1. Episode 5, I gave a 7 to an 8. Episode 6, I gave an 8. And then episode 7, I gave it a 5 as well, because the first half was terrible, second half was really good. Again, that was the end of season 2. Very, very interesting, right? A lot of things happened, a lot of things didn't happen. At the end of the day, it took them 2 to 2.5 years to make this season, which is just way too long. And if they do that for season 3, no one's going to care about this show, especially with the insanely mixed reception they had, and mostly negative reception, to be honest, for season 2. They kind of got to get season 3 out in at least a year to a year and a half. So we'll definitely have to wait and see if that happens again. I actually really enjoyed making these Last of Us videos, and I hope you guys like them as well. I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions down below about the season. Again, if I gave the first one a 9 to a 10 out of 10, this one was probably like a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. So let me know what you think down below about this season. Again, I'd very much like to know. Subscribe to my sports channel, which will also be getting linked down below. Yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you guys next time. Goodbye.